At 2:17 a.m., the elevators stopped moving. Nobody noticed at first. St. Mercy Medical Center was already drowning in chaos. 2 cardiac arrests, 1 stabbing victim, a drunk driver in pediatric trauma. Half the night, staff running on caffeine and instinct. The emergency department looked like a battlefield under fluorescent lights. Monitors screamed. Doctors shouted orders. Stretchers rolled across polished floors slick with rainwater from incoming ambulances. And in the middle of it all, Claire Donovan quietly replaced a blood bag without saying a word. Like always, most people at St. Mercy barely remembered she existed until they needed her. She worked nights, never socialized, never stayed after shift changes, never spoke about herself. Some nurses thought she was rude, some doctors thought she lacked empathy. Dr. Ethan Cross simply thought she was strange. Claire. She looked up calmly. The trauma surgeon stood beside Bay 4, removing bloody gloves after surgery. Tall, sharp-jawed, brilliant, and permanently irritated. We need another unit in pediatric trauma. Claire nodded once. No wasted words. No small talk. She moved immediately toward the blood refrigerator, while Ethan watched her disappear down the hallway. One of the residents beside him smirked. I still don't think she sleeps. Ethan barely looked up. I don't think she blinks. The resident laughed quietly, but Ethan didn't, because there was something unsettling about Claire Donovan. Not creepy. Controlled. Too controlled. Like every movement had been practiced somewhere much worse than a hospital. Then, all overhead lights flickered once. The nurse's station paused briefly. Backup generators hummed, and every elevator in the emergency wing froze simultaneously. A charge nurse frowned toward the ceiling. Again. Facilities had been dealing with electrical issues for 2 weeks. Nothing major. Just random outages. Still, Claire stopped walking, completely stopped. Her eyes slowly lifted toward elevator 3 at the end of the corridor. The doors hadn't reopened. Most people ignored it. Claire didn't. Something about it felt wrong. Then the emergency bay doors exploded open downstairs. Trauma incoming. The entire ER snapped back into motion instantly. Paramedics rushed through the sliding entrance pushing a blood-covered stretcher. Male. Military age. Critical condition. GSW to abdomen. BP crashing. Lost pulse twice in transport. Claire's expression changed slightly the moment she saw the combat boots. Not fear, recognition. The patient's body armor had been partially cut away during field stabilization, revealing military tattoos across his chest and shoulder. Special operations. Ethan moved immediately beside the stretcher. What happened? Convoy shooting near Arlington Bridge. The paramedics sounded shaken. 3 federal escorts dead at scene. Claire noticed something instantly. The medic avoided eye contact while speaking. Tiny detail, but strange. Then she saw another thing. His boots. Wrong tread pattern for city EMS. The stretcher rushed into trauma bay. 1. Doctors swarmed around the patient beneath harsh white lights. Pressure dropping. He's bleeding internally. Prepor now. The soldier suddenly coughed blood violently. One of the residents cursed. He's crashing. Claire stepped beside the bed to secure another IV line. Then the wounded soldier's eyes opened. Just barely, clouded with pain. Barely conscious, but focused. Straight on her. His breathing became uneven immediately. Recognition. Real recognition. Claire felt it instantly. The soldier weakly lifted his hand toward her wrist. The movement was small, desperate. Then his cracked lips moved. No one else heard him clearly. Only Claire. Red, echo. Her entire body froze. Not visibly, internally, like ice flooding her bloodstream. The soldier's fingers tightened weakly around her sleeve. And then he whispered the sentence that changed everything. They're already inside. The trauma room noise vanished around her. Monitors, voices, footsteps. Gone. Because Claire Donovan knew exactly what Red Echo meant. Not a nickname. Not a person. A military breach code. used only during covert hospital evacuation failures overseas. Meaning, hostile infiltration already active inside the secure medical zone. The soldier's pulse suddenly flatlined. No pulse. The trauma bay exploded into chaos. Ethan shoved forward immediately. Start compressions. Move! Doctors and nurses swarmed the bed while Claire stepped backward slowly. Her eyes moved toward the hallway outside Trauma Bay 1, scanning, watching. And suddenly, she noticed things she should have seen earlier. A security camera facing the wrong direction. An unfamiliar janitor cart near the ICU corridor. One elevator still frozen. Elevator 3. Claire's pulse accelerated for the first time in years, because now she understood. The power outage wasn't random, the convoy shooting wasn't random, and the soldier hadn't been delirious. Then, she saw the fake paramedic watching her from across the hallway, not helping the trauma team, watching her. Their eyes locked for half a second, and the man immediately touched his earpiece. Claire's blood went cold because she'd seen that movement before, in Fallujah, in Kandahar, in military hospitals, right before people died. Then the overhead speakers crackled. Static hissed softly through the emergency wing, and Claire Donovan realized the attack had already started. The overhead speakers crackled again. Static hissed softly across St. Mercy Medical Center, while nurses continued moving through the emergency wing, unaware that anything had changed. But Claire Donovan knew, because once you survived a Red Echo event, you never forgot the feeling. The silence before violence. The tiny details no one else noticed. The fake calm. Inside Trauma Bay 1, Dr. Ethan Cross continued chest compressions on the dying soldier. Charged to 200. The defibrillator whined loudly. Claire barely heard it. Her eyes stayed fixed on the hallway outside, watching, calculating. The fake paramedic was gone now. That was worse. Ethan looked up sharply. Claire, she turned instantly. Push epi now. Her body moved automatically, hands steady, voice calm. But inside, old memories were waking up. A hospital corridor overseas. Emergency lights flickering, patients screaming beneath gunfire, and a radio voice whispering, Red Echo confirmed. The code never meant rescue. It meant containment failure. Ethan shocked the soldier once, twice. Then finally, the monitor spiked. Heartbeat restored. The trauma room exhaled collectively. Pulse back. The residents relaxed slightly. Claire didn't, because the soldier's warning mattered more than his injuries now. Ethan removed bloody gloves and looked toward her. You okay? Yes. You look pale. I'm fine. He studied her for another second, not convinced. Then one of the nurses rushed inside. Dr. Cross, security needs you downstairs. What happened? An ambulance disappeared from the emergency loading zone. Claire's eyes sharpened instantly. Ethan frowned. What do you mean, disappeared? No driver, no patients. It's just gone. Claire already knew why. Extraction vehicle. Not ambulance. Ethan noticed her expression. What? Claire looked toward the doorway carefully. Lock this wing down. The room blinked. What? Now. Ethan folded his arms. Claire, that soldier wasn't shot randomly. Silence. The trauma team slowly turned toward her. Claire lowered her voice. He was running. Ethan frowned harder. From who? She looked directly at him. The people already inside this hospital. The room went quiet. One resident actually laughed nervously. You serious? Claire ignored him. Where's hospital security? Downstairs? Wrong. They should already be sealing exits. Ethan stared at her. What exactly are you saying? Claire hesitated. Because saying it aloud would make it real. Then finally, we're compromised. The room fell silent again. One nurse whispered, Compromised? Claire looked toward the dark hallway outside Trauma Bay 1. Someone infiltrated St. Mercy before the soldier arrived. Ethan rubbed exhausted eyes. Claire, this isn't a movie. No. It's worse. The seriousness in her voice unsettled him instantly, because Claire Donovan never dramatized anything, ever. Then the lights flickered again. This time longer. Emergency power kicked in 3 seconds late. 3 seconds, Claire noticed. So did Ethan. That shouldn't happen, one resident whispered. No, it shouldn't. Unless someone manually interrupted the power transfer sequence. Claire immediately walked toward the nurse's station computers, typing fast. Hospital camera feeds opened across the monitor. Parking garage, pediatric wing, south entrance. Then, camera feed, 7 froze, looping. Claire's stomach tightened instantly. There, again, red echo. Ethan stepped beside her. What am I looking at? The same 12-second loop, repeating. His expression changed slightly. You sure? Yes. How? Clock shadow isn't moving. Silence. Ethan slowly looked toward her. You've seen this before. Claire didn't answer, because now she was remembering everything. Mosul Military Hospital. Night shift. Power outage. Fake medical convoy arriving wounded. Then armed men executing patients room by room. Red echo. The code that meant they're already inside. Another nurse hurried toward them. Claire. She turned immediately. Room 314 says maintenance workers entered ICU without authorization. Ethan frowned. We don't have night maintenance. Claire moved instantly. Where's ICU security? No response. That answer chilled the entire station. Because suddenly, everyone felt it. Something wrong. Something moving beneath the surface. Ethan grabbed Claire's arm before she left. Who are you? The question landed harder than expected. Claire slowly looked at his hand gripping her wrist, then at him. For 6 years, nobody at St. Mercy asked that question seriously, because nobody wanted to know. But Ethan did now. Claire quietly pulled free. Former Army rescue medic. The residents blinked. One nurse frowned. You were military. Claire nodded once. Ethan stared at her. How former? No answer. Then suddenly, the dying soldier in Trauma Bay 1 began screaming. Everyone turned instantly. Not pain screams. Terror. Get down. The soldier ripped oxygen tubing away violently while trying to sit upright. His eyes locked toward the hallway, wild with fear. They found me. Claire ran back instantly. Easy. But the soldier grabbed her uniform hard. No time. Blood stained his lips. They're coming for the drive. The room froze. Drive? Ethan looked sharply toward Claire. You know about this? No. The soldier coughed violently again, then whispered directly into Claire's ear. They killed your whole team in Mosul. Claire stopped breathing. The world tilted sideways. Mosul. Nobody here knew about Mosul. Nobody. Ethan saw the color drain from her face instantly. What did he say? Claire barely heard him, because now she remembered fire climbing hospital walls, smoke filling pediatric wards, her squad dying one hallway at a time, and the radio voice whispering red echo moments before the massacre began. The soldier looked at her desperately. You're the only one who survived before. The room went dead, silent. Ethan slowly stepped closer. Claire. The soldier's grip tightened weakly. You have to stop them again. Then, the hospital intercom activated overhead. A calm male voice echoed across St. Mercy Medical Center. Attention staff. Security incident resolved. Please remain where you are. Claire's blood went cold instantly. Because the voice wasn't hospital security, and she knew exactly what came next. The voice on the intercom repeated calmly through the hospital. Security incident resolved. Please remain where you are. But Claire Donovan already knew people were dead, because that exact sentence was used during the Mosul massacre to keep hospital staff stationary, easy to isolate, easy to eliminate. Inside Trauma Bay 1, nobody moved. The residents looked confused, the nurses nervous. Only Claire understood what was really happening. Dr. Ethan Cross slowly turned toward her. That voice, It's fake. How do you know? Claire looked toward the hallway. Because hospital security never uses pre-recorded calm during active containment. The dying soldier grabbed her sleeve again. Weakly. They're locking floors. Claire checked the hallway cameras quickly. Elevator access disabled. Emergency stairwells sealed. ICU feeds offline. Her pulse accelerated. Not panic. Preparation. The same cold mental clarity she used to survive overseas. Ethan noticed immediately. The quiet trauma nurse wasn't acting afraid anymore. She was changing. Standing straighter, moving faster, watching corners automatically, like somebody else had just awakened beneath her skin. Then the overhead lights cut out completely. Darkness swallowed Trauma Wing C. Several nurses gasped. Backup emergency lights flickered on seconds later, deep red, the same color used during military lockdown procedures. Claire immediately moved, everyone away from the doors. Nobody argued. Not this time. Something in her voice changed. Authority. Ethan frowned toward the hallway. What's the plan? Claire looked at him sharply. There isn't one yet. Gunshots echoed somewhere downstairs. Screaming followed. Then silence. One of the younger nurses started crying immediately. Oh my God. The wounded soldier whispered weakly from the bed. They started early. Claire moved beside him. Who are they? His breathing became uneven. Private contractors. Ex-Black operations. Why attack a hospital? The soldier looked terrified. Because I stole something. Claire's expression hardened. What? Before he could answer, the hallway outside Trauma Bay 1 suddenly filled with footsteps. Slow. Organized. Professional. Claire killed the room lights instantly. Darkness swallowed the Trauma Bay except for red emergency glow. The footsteps stopped outside the door. Everyone held their breath. Then, a voice, male, calm. Medical staff. We're federal response. Open immediately. Claire closed her eyes briefly. Not federal. Real federal teams never announce themselves before entry. Ethan whispered, How do you know? Because real response teams breach first. Silence. Then the voice outside changed slightly. More impatient now. Open the door. Claire grabbed a surgical scalpel quietly from the instrument tray. Ethan stared at her. You seriously think? The door handle moved violently. Everyone froze. Claire whispered, Down. The trauma bay door burst open. 3 armed men entered wearing tactical gear labeled DHS breastpins. Fake. Claire recognized it instantly. Wrong weapon positioning. Wrong formation spacing. Military-trained killers pretending to be federal agents. One operator raised his flashlight across the room. Clear left. Another moved toward the patient bed. Then Claire acted. Fast. She slammed the metal instrument tray into the nearest attacker's face, hard enough to stagger him backward. The room exploded into chaos. Gunfire tore through monitors. Glass shattered. Nurses screamed. Ethan dragged a resident behind overturned equipment while Claire tackled the second attacker before he reached the soldier. The operator hit the ground hard. Claire drove the scalpel into his shoulder joint instantly, precise, professional, not random panic, training. The third attacker raised his rifle. The wounded soldier fired first. A hidden pistol from beneath the hospital blanket. One shot. The operator collapsed backward into the hallway. Silence followed. Smoke drifted through Trauma Bay 1. Everyone stared at Claire, especially Ethan, because the quiet nurse they ignored for 6 years had just dismantled a trained operator in under 5 seconds. Claire immediately stripped the attacker's earpiece off. Military encrypted comms. Exactly like Mosul. The wounded soldier coughed blood violently. Still got it. Claire ignored him. Instead, she checked the hallway quickly. More footsteps. More operators moving floor to floor. Then she saw something worse. Hospital staff kneeling near the nurses' station under armed guard. One attacker pointing room by room, searching. Ethan slowly stood. What the hell are these people? Claire's voice stayed calm. Recovery team. For what? The soldier answered weakly. Me. Claire turned sharply. What did you steal? The soldier reached slowly beneath the hospital mattress, then removed a small black encrypted drive. The room froze. Ethan stared. You brought classified intel into my hospital. The soldier laughed weakly. It was the only place I thought they wouldn't shoot everyone. Gunfire erupted downstairs again. Claire looked toward the drive. What's on it? The soldier's expression darkened. Names. Her stomach tightened instantly. Always names. Every massacre began with names. Whose names? His voice dropped almost to a whisper. American officers. The room went cold. Ethan frowned. What? The soldier swallowed painfully. Mosul wasn't enemy action. Claire froze completely. The wounded man looked directly at her. It was a cleanup. The world stopped. Mosul, her dead team, the hospital massacre. Not terrorists. Not terrorists. Betrayal. The soldier continued weakly. Black budget contractors were eliminating witnesses. Your team discovered trafficking routes hidden through military aid convoys. Claire felt sick, because suddenly everything made sense. Why no reinforcements came. Why evacuation helicopters disappeared. Why command buried the investigation. Ethan stared at her slowly. You didn't survive an attack. The soldier answered for her. She survived an execution. Silence swallowed Trauma Bay 1. Then, the overhead intercom activated again. This time directly outside the room, a new voice. Deep, cold. Claire Donovan. Her blood froze, because she recognized that voice instantly. The man who commanded the Mosul cleanup team, the man who murdered her squad, Colonel Adrian Wolfe. The voice continued calmly through the speakers. You should have stayed dead with the others. The hospital went completely silent after the voice disappeared. Even the gunfire downstairs paused briefly, because Claire Donovan hadn't heard the name Adrian Wolfe in 6 years. Not since Mosul. Not since blood flooded the pediatric wing while soldiers burned alive behind barricaded doors. Dr. Ethan Cross slowly looked toward her. You know him. Claire didn't answer immediately. Her face had become unreadable. Cold. Still. Like someone reopening a grave inside their own mind. The wounded soldier whispered weakly. He runs the recovery teams now. Claire's jaw tightened. Recovery teams. That was the sanitized name. The truth was simpler. Cleanup crews. People sent to erase operations governments denied existed. Then footsteps echoed outside Trauma Bay 1 again. More operators. Closer now. Ethan looked toward the barricaded doorway. We can't stay here. Claire nodded once. No, we move now. The residents stared at her. One finally asked the question everyone feared. How many are inside the hospital? Claire checked the stolen comms earpiece quickly, listening, counting. Then, 12. Maybe more securing exits. One nurse started crying again. Oh God. Claire immediately stepped toward her. Listen to me. The nurse looked up shakily. Claire's voice stayed calm, focused. The panic kills people first, so breathe. Something about the way she said it steadied the room instantly. Because Claire Donovan wasn't afraid anymore. Not after hearing Wolfe's voice. Fear had burned out of her years ago in Mosul. Only purpose remained. Ethan noticed it too. The quiet trauma nurse had completely disappeared. Standing in front of him now was a battlefield medic. A survivor. A woman built from catastrophe. Claire looked toward the wounded soldier. What's your name? Noah Vance. What exactly did you steal, Noah? He swallowed painfully. Payment logs. Transfer records. Operation authorizations. Claire's expression darkened further. Proof. Not rumors. Proof. Noah continued weakly. Mosul. Kandahar. Syria. Everything. Ethan stared. These attacks were all connected. Noah nodded once. Human trafficking through war zones. Refugees sold during extraction missions. Witnesses erased afterward. Claire felt rage move beneath her skin for the first time in years. Not explosive rage, cold rage. The kind that sharpened people. Noah looked toward her weakly. Your squad found the routes accidentally. Claire closed her eyes briefly. Images flooded back instantly. Children hidden inside medical transports, missing refugee manifests, military aid crates with false seals. Her team really had discovered something, and command murdered them for it. The overhead speakers crackled again. Then Wolf's voice returned. You cannot save them this time either, Claire. The trauma room chilled. Claire grabbed the comms mic from the dead operator's vest. Funny, she replied calmly. Silence. Then Wolf laughed softly through the speakers. Same laugh, same voice from Mosul. You survived 6 years just to die in another hospital. Claire's eyes hardened. No. You made the mistake of putting me back in one. The comm line went dead. Ethan stared at her. You've done this before. Claire checked the hallway map quickly. Once. And? A long pause followed. Then quietly. I was the only one left. Silence. Nobody asked more, because they already understood enough. Then suddenly, all emergency lights shut off. Darkness swallowed Trauma Wing C completely. Only distant muzzle flashes illuminated the hallway outside. The operators were moving faster now. Noah looked terrified. They're pushing upper floors. Claire immediately turned toward the staff. Everyone mobile comes with me. No elevators. No main corridors. Ethan frowned. Where are we going? Service tunnels. One resident blinked. This hospital has tunnels. Every military-funded hospital does. The room stared at her. Ethan slowly realized something. Claire didn't just survive hospitals under attack. She studied them, memorized them, prepared for them. Because some part of her always knew this day might return. Gunfire erupted closer outside. The barricade doors shook violently. Claire grabbed Noah's stretcher. Move. The trauma team rushed into the dark service hallway behind Trauma Wing, one while distant alarms screamed overhead. Doctors, nurses, patients, following the quiet nurse, nobody respected yesterday. Claire led them through narrow maintenance corridors beneath the hospital while explosions echoed upstairs. Every turn precise, every movement calculated. Then, suddenly, she stopped. Everyone nearly collided behind her. What? Claire raised one hand silently. Listening. Footsteps ahead. 2 operators. Waiting near the tunnel exit, Claire quietly removed the sidearm from the dead attacker's holster. Ethan stared. You know how to use that? Claire gave him a look. Then she moved. Fast. 3 muffled shots echoed through the tunnel. Silence followed. Claire reappeared seconds later. Clear. The residents looked horrified. Ethan looked stunned, but Noah only closed his eyes. Because now he understood why Claire Donovan survived Mosul when nobody else did. She became better at war than the people hunting her. The group finally reached the hospital power control room beneath the East Wing. Claire immediately began rerouting emergency systems. Ethan frowned. You can do that too. Field hospitals teach fast. Monitors flickered back online across several floors. Security cameras returned, and suddenly, the entire hospital could see the attackers. Fake federal gear, execution squads, armed infiltrators moving through patient rooms, live, broadcast across every monitor in St. Mercy. Panic erupted upstairs instantly, but something else happened too. Police dispatch finally saw the feed. Real federal agencies saw it. The attackers lost control. Noah laughed weakly despite the pain. You just exposed them nationally. Claire kept typing. Good. Gunfire erupted again upstairs. But different now. SWAT response. Real response. Wolf's operators were trapped. Then Claire's stolen comm earpiece activated one final time. Wolf, angry now. You think this changes anything? Claire answered quietly. No, but it ends tonight. A long silence followed. Then Wolf spoke softly. Red Echo always ends in bodies. Claire looked toward the frightened nurses behind her, toward Noah, toward Ethan. Then she replied, "Not this time." The comm line died forever. Hours later, dawn sunlight slowly entered St. Mercy Medical Center. Police filled the hallways. Federal investigators seized equipment. News helicopters circled overhead. The attack was over, 12 operators captured, 3 dead, hospital staff alive. And for the first time in 6 years, people finally knew who Claire Donovan really was. Not the quiet trauma nurse, not the strange night shift medic, but the survivor of Mosul. The woman military ghosts whispered about after hospital sieges. Red Echo. Ethan found her alone near the rooftop helipad watching sunrise quietly. He stepped beside her carefully. "You could have told us." Claire stared toward the city skyline. "No. Why?" A long silence passed. Then she answered softly. "Because the people who survive those nights usually spend the rest of their lives pretending they didn't." For a moment neither spoke. Below them, St. Mercy slowly returned to normal. But Ethan knew something now. Claire Donovan was never invisible. People simply never looked closely enough. And somewhere deep inside the waking hospital, the legend called Red Echo finally stopped hiding.